This is Carrie Johnson with the Iowa Department of Management, and this is part 3 of a series of brief webinars to familiarize county auditors and their staff with submitting property valuation data annually to the Department of Management's online system. And this particular session is really going to focus on what data is submitted to Department of Management and how you actually upload your data into our online system. So when you submit data to DOM, you're going to be importing a .dat file, DAT file, from your local software. When you import the data, if you don't want to override the district names in the state system, you can just make sure that your system places an X for the tax district name. But you're going to be importing a district by district sort of overview data-wise of all the different classes of property, 100% and taxable, right? So if we look at our tax district recap sheet, this is the kind of data you're going to be importing for each and every tax district. The tax district number, which is a 5 or 6 digit number, state ID number, tax district name up to 100 characters, the property type, city ag, city exempt, TIF, yes or no, and if it is yes, then TIF type. All the different classes of property, both 100% and taxable value. And then in relation to TIF, it's if it is a TIF district, the frozen base year, frozen base amount, the base district code, so tying together the increment district and the base district so they're a set pair. The receiving TIF type, so who is actually the entity that's receiving the TIF dollars, is it a city or a county, etc., and then receiving levy authority code. So when you import the data into the system, you are going to be importing 100% and taxable values. Keep in mind that negative numbers or produced negative numbers are not permitted. 100% value is reported in the first column. Taxable value is reported in the second column, and it's the amount calculated after application of the rollback or statutory assessment limitation as determined annually by Department of Revenue. Valuations for gas and electric utilities paying a replacement tax are not subject to an assessment limitation, but when IDR sends you out the gas and electric value, you're going to see both 100% assessed and taxable value for the gas and electric. The following classes of property are subject to taxation at less than 100% of value for the 2020 values payable for fiscal year 22. Ag property, so ag land and buildings, is 84.0305%. Residential is 56.4094. Multi-residential is 67.5. Commercial, industrial, and railroad are taxed at 90% unless it's a very new wind generation sort of situation in your county, then they are not subject to the 90% rollback. Utility property, the utility class of property, so not gas and electric, but the utility class is taxed at 98.5489%. So again, when you import your data, you're going to designate for each and every tax district or your system will, whether it's rural or urban, so urban within a city or rural outside a city, obviously, whether or not it's a city ag district. So if it's a city ag district, it's in a city, but it contains ag property, only ag property. And in a city, ag property is taxed at a lower rate by statute. And that's just a little bit over $3. So those city ag parcels have to be separated out because they have a different tax rate applied to them, and they're separated out via a separate tax district. You're going to report city exempt, yes or no. A city exempt tax district is when the city agrees to a transition for the imposition of city taxes against property within an annexed area. So you very well may not have any of these, but occasionally you will, and it's just something to be aware of. TIF, yes or no, and if it's a yes, then it's going to be either a base or an increment. So if the TIF is flagged as a no, then the TIF type is also no. But if the TIF type is yes, then it's either, if the TIF is yes, then it's either a base or an increment. Frozen base year, a 4-digit number. And if you have created a base district, but the frozen base year is not set yet, you can enter 4 zeros for the frozen base year. But do remember that you have to go back into the system, in a later year and update that frozen base year once it becomes established. Frozen base amount, this is again for the base district, and you're going to enter the 100% frozen base year valuation assigned to that district. For TIF type increment, that's sort of tying together the base district to the increment. So in your increment district, you're going to be reporting, well, what is the base district that's tied to that increment district? And again, never associate a base district with more than one increment district. So it's a one-to-one relationship. Receiving TIF type is used for, I is used for city, O is used for county, J for community college, and Z for rural improvement zone authorities. And then receiving levy authority code, so whatever the TIF type is, you're also going to be reporting actually who is the actual ultimate recipient. So TIF type, receiving type I, for a city, then what is the city? Who is the city that's actually receiving those TIF dollars? Residential property is going to be reported, and just as a note, dwellings located on ag land is classified as residential and listed on line 1, and they get their residential rollback. And line 3 includes farm buildings, but not residences. So that's just sort of a caveat to keep in mind. Residences on ag land within a city must be listed on line 1 of a regular tax district. And that's something that happens occasionally, that you'll see residential value reported in a city ag district because it's the residence that goes along with that city ag, but it's not actually ag land, so it needs to be reported in a regular taxing district. And again, the only classifications that should appear in the valuation report for city ag districts are ag land and ag buildings, so line 2 and line 3. Commercial and industrial property. Again, this is just a quick reference to the legislation that was passed a couple of sessions ago regarding new wind towers, windmills within a city, within a county. So if you have any questions regarding the application of the relatively new law to those wind conversion situations, you can certainly let me know. Multi-residential property is also reported separately. We have a reserved line for any future changes. Railroads are reported on line 8. And again, with railroads, they are subject to that 90% rollback because they're to be treated like commercial property. Utilities without gas and electric are your centrally assessed utilities, not gas and electric reported on that line. Other may be things like mineral rights, certain railroad bridges, toll bridges, things of that nature. Gross is just the sum of lines 1 through 10. You're going to report military exemptions in both the taxable and 100% column. And then the total without gas electric is a calculation that's made on line 13. Line 14 is where your 100% and taxable gas electric value from your reports that you receive from Department of Revenue are listed. Only gas and electric property should be listed there. Assessed is placed in the 100% and taxable placed in the taxable. Again, this property is not subject to rollback adjustments, but it is possible for the taxable to actually be higher than the 100% just because of the way that those are calculated in a different manner. Open spaces is on line 15, and then you're going to be reporting the number of homestead credit claims. And negative numbers are not permitted for homestead. So that's the data that you're going to be importing. How do you actually import it? As I mentioned, your software is going to generate for you a DAT file, and this should be very similar as to prior years. There is no change in that process from our perspective. So you're going to import data. You're going to choose File, and that's going to send you out to your desktop or to your machine so you can find that DAT file and select it, and then you'll select upload. So you browse to locate your DAT file wherever it is on your system and choose it, and then you're going to select upload. So this is what you'd hope to see. It's just did a quick validation of your data, and it made sure that there's nothing that it's seeing that will not let you import, and you do a confirm, and it's going to tell you your data is successfully updated. Some common errors with the upload: if you had a tax district that was switched in your local software for a rural to an urban or vice versa, the system is not going to like that, and it's not going to accept that. Something was called a rural district in 2019, and in 2020 you're trying to call it an urban district, the system is not going to accept that change. Similarly, you can't switch from a base to an increment and vice versa. A big thing, though, is just more of the timing and the process. Like, for instance, you create a tax district or delete a tax district on your local software, but you have not yet made the same change in the valuation system on the state side. So then when you try to upload, those don't match. So be sure if you're making any tax district changes, you do those in the state system before you try to upload your DAT file. So this is just kind of what an error might look like. It's telling you, okay, this tax district hasn't been set up in the application. You've got to do that before you import your data. So that's the kind of error that you might see trying to import a tax district that you don't have set up in the state system yet. And this is what the error might look like if you change the tax district itself. So in this example, we had a change from urban to rural, and we tried to upload it. Well, the system's not going to accept that. Again, same thing, a change to a tax district that you made in your local software that is not possible in the state system, and the system's going to give you an error. So that's just a brief summary of the type of data that you're going to be uploading into the system and what the upload process looks like. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.